Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. So I didn't do a whole lot on the Cub this weekend. I was mostly working on my cousin-in-law's bad boy buggies off-road go-kart. Had to do a little motor swap on it. The bearing. There's only a few things that can go wrong with electric motors. Really only two things. They've got two bearings. One's on the output end and one's on the other end. And that's, other than just the insulation on the windings just going bad and internally shorting out. There's really only two things that can go wrong with a bearing, and that's what went wrong. One of the bearings crapped out on it. So replace that, and that's all working good now. And then I also did some work on my solar batteries, but I did do a little bit of work on this. I came up with a new idea for how to do this. I've got a underneath here. I'm probably going to pause this video in a second underneath here and sort of give you a layout of what this is, because this got to get fixed. So this is my actuator. I took that aluminum piece off there that was holding the actuator to the frame, and I just have the actuator actuating directly on this piece right there, and there's a spherical bearing in here that's pressed into this flat bar, and that bolts to this flat bar, which is welded to the frame. And then there's a bolt going through the actuator rod end into this piece, and this looks all cobbled and janky because it is, but I had to make these angles all right so that nothing hits itself. And then that's all welded to that, and then that goes across to this this rod. It's the same. It's basically the same rod, just different length of tube, and that goes across to my my bracket that I made. It's the same as I had it before, but just it's on the other side now. So all the side loads or any of that stuff is going to be going through that rod and that crossbar only, and not being transmitted through my actuator. So, and now the actuator just pivots on the back, and any let's say left to right movement that the actuator has, as it follows the arc of that crossbar, it'll be accepted with that rear pivot. And I'm going to see if I can do this. I think I tried this once before and I got away with it. We'll see if I can do it again. I'm going to try and make this thing move. It's pretty fast. I need to put a darn switch on this thing. So here we go. Let's try this. Yeah, right. Let's make it go the other way. Bear with me. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can get some good video action. So that's pretty awesome. That works really good, sort of. Oh, hang on. I gotta fix my wires so they don't spark. Sort of. That works pretty good, sort of. And the reason I had this spherical bearing in here, I was thinking, was because if I didn't have this linear actuator lined up just right with the crossbar, then it could end up getting into some sort of a bind at full extension or full retraction or whatever. So I thought that bearing in the middle would be nice to give it some movement. But what it does is it just allows it to move a lot. And what happens is the weight of the actuator presses down, and now this crossbar is rubbing here, and it rubs as it goes through its range of motion. But more than anything, worse than anything, is it allows for a lot of travel, a lot of play. So you can't really make it out, but it's a lot. So what would happen is if I'm going to turn, this thing would just be all over the place. It'd be really, really odd to control. So I'm going to get rid of that spherical bearing. I'm going to put an actual ball bearing in there, and that'll hold everything tight. Or I may end up putting a bushing in there. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens, but see what kind of ball bearing I can get. Yeah, and that'll fix that, and it should get rid of most of this play, if not all of it. And I kind of need to, if you back up a little bit, you'll see that when this is straight, this part is out further than when than this end. This end is about right here for the pivot, and this end is here in the middle. So this bar isn't exactly straight. And at first I was like, well, that's no good. I need to make that bar straight. But then I had this thing turned full left, which it isn't even actually turned full left. And you can see how close that rod gets to the frame. I could cut this frame out if I needed to, but I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I think it's going to be fine. I don't imagine why would be any problem. Once I get this thing sorted out so there's not so much movement and free play, then I'll get it off these rollers and actually try and turn it with it on the tires, which would be a whole lot more stressful, much more difficult thing to do. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, not a whole lot of work done on this weekend, doing other stuff. But that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take all this apart and I'll kind of show it to you better. See you in a minute. Okay, so here it is out of the thing, and yeah, that's the little spherical bearing I was talking about. Uh, so it's got a shoulder bolt that's really hard to line up and get in there one-handed, but it does. It's got a shoulder bolt. You have to take my word for it. There you go, shoulder bolt. That goes through there, and my little rod ends here. Yeah, there's just too much play. There's just too much movement, and all that movement transmits through the entire linkage, and it just makes for a disaster. So, I'm gonna get that out of there. Get a ball bearing or a roller bearing or a thrust bearing or something, and that'll tighten all that up much better. And I'll come through. I'll weld this better, and then I'll come through and get all these edges so this doesn't look so silly. Now, this isn't something that anybody's ever going to be able to see, but I know it's there. Well, you might be able to see it. Yeah, you'll be able to see it because it's going to be kind of there when the tractor is finished. But anyway, so that's where we're at with the Cub. I need to still make a lifting mechanism for this, and this is going to be simple. I think I described this already, but I'm gonna describe it again. All I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to get a piece of 8-inch flat bar and just come across here, have another one come across here, and then have two going across through those pieces with a hole drilled in it and a pin, and then I can just put a hook on that and pick this whole thing up, take the bolts off the bottom, and get a cherry picker and just pick this whole thing up off out of there. And yeah, that'll be that. And I can get this wired up as a 48 volt battery. And what I may end up doing, what I could definitely do, is just take this and put it over in there with my other batteries, and then just have it in the system, just giving it an extra, 7 kilowatt hours of energy. What I'll probably end up doing when I'm finished with this thing is I'll have a plug on the front. I'll also have one on the back for different reasons, but I have a plug on the front, and then I can have an extension cables going from that battery to a plug out here, and then I can just plug this up into the house, basically into the solar system, and use it for backup power, sort of a vehicle to grid. That's what the cool thing is with EVs these days. Everybody wants vehicle to grid. I don't know how I feel about vehicle to grid with an electric car, but with a tractor that's not going to be used very much in the winter, I think it's a pretty good idea. And so, anyway, that's what I've been up to with this. So, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.